our stress-inducing Storm segment where we're still wondering what Breanna Stewart will do when it comes to free agency. So, Bel, why don't we take a look at Stewie?
Yeah, still another short segment, but some bombs were dropped over the weekend. So on the 29th, it was announced that Breanna Stewart has narrowed her free agency decision down to 2 teams. One of them, of course, the Storm, and the other, who I don't think it's a surprise to anybody, the New York Liberty. What I think might influence her decision here, and you can tell me if you disagree, but our other piece of league notes here on the 28th, Candace Parker announced via Instagram that she is signing with the Las Vegas Aces. After having spent 2 years within her hometown of Chicago, CP3 will rejoin her old teammate Chelsea Gray in Las Vegas.
That's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was
even
big.
Candace Parker is Candace Parker, right? But even the one after that you and I were briefly discussing before we jumped on here with Alicia Clark, former Storm player, joining Las Vegas. I think we talked about it. Vegas will have to make some corresponding moves in order for that to fully fit cap-wise. But this is just ridiculous. This is like KD signing with the Warriors. I don't know what to say, really, how this is going to work, who's going to challenge them. I like I said in our little chat, I don't know even if I don't want it to happen. I'm not saying it will. I don't want it to. If Stewie and Courtney Vandersloot join the Liberty, if they could put up with Vegas, you know what I mean? Fully healthy, that is. Obviously, of course, long season, things happen. So I would hope it doesn't. I mean, that's the problem with all these arguments about where Stewie will go, right? Is that the arguments for the Liberty make a lot of sense with being closer to home. Her partner Marta is from Spain. It's closer to Spain in terms of travel wise. Being part of that, you could effectively say that Stewie has done all that. She's given her all to this city, right? And I wouldn't be angry at her for that decision. I wouldn't. It would be unfair to do so. But also, you think Sue Bird was at an impasse as well in her career when she had the time to go home, because remember, she's from that part of the country as well, and she decided to stay here and carve that legacy. Breanna Stewart is very well on her way to earning a statue as well here. I'm not saying that she will right now. Well, Sue hasn't technically got one officially, but it should be a given, right? But it's a tough case. It really is, and you could argue that if you bring Stewie and Vandersloot here in Seattle, you would have a super team with Jewell Loyd, right? You still got Izzy Magbegor is a young, talented piece there. You get Mercedes Russell back healthy for the course of the season. Things start to look good. You still have to add a lot in terms of bench roles, and the draft picks will be valuable. Vandersloot's your point guard, but who's your point guard for the future, right? But I mean, if you're able to bring Stewie back, you very well could have the opportunity to have a Stewie Loyd star pairing here in Seattle for the course of their careers if you do this right. Now, obviously, for GM Talisa Ray, this isn't the easiest thing to do, because again, this is a tough decision between those two teams. Like I said, Bel, I didn't think it was going to be, Washington and Minnesota. I didn't think those two had a chance. I thought that was just laughable. And it turned out to be. So I don't know. That's the problem in my mind, is that it makes sense either way where Stewie decides to go for these teams. But I have some counterpoints. You talk about the super team part of it. Again, Sabrina Ionescu, Jonquel Jones, but that will hurt you in terms of who else you can bring to add to that roster, right? How you're able to fill it out. So yeah, it's tough, and I get both sides of it. But ultimately, let's just say this. In my heart, she comes back. In my brain, she goes to New York. That's just how it is. That's just, that's where my brain's leaning personally, right? We got to I can't be indecisive on this sort of thing. I don't know. What do you think about the whole thing?
I just would hate for her to be influenced by the moves that the Aces are making and feel like she has to form somewhat of her own super team in order to be able to compete. Because like you said, what team that's fully healthy is going to be able to compete with that starting lineup? So, and you could even look at it on the other side of the spectrum, is if you're going to fight with the team that you have anyway against a super team like them. So possibly staying with the Storm. I don't know. I really, I didn't think we could expect to hear anything anytime soon. I knew the Candace Parker news was going to kind of sit for a while, and then maybe we'd hear about Breanna. But I'm remaining hopeful. Like you said, it makes sense for both, but it's the Aces have made it really tough to compete against them when they were already a championship team and they've only added such good puzzle pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, them trading away De'Erica, yeah,
Mhm.
it's that whole situation's tough as well. I don't know if you saw the way that unfolded, but
I
you just
have.
think about their starting five. You look at Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray's there, Aisha Wilson, Candace Parker. Those are just four players. That's it's ridiculous. But like we said also in our little chat, these super teams don't always necessarily amount to an immediate trophy. That's why they play the games, right? So it's definitely something to note, definitely something to worry about. But all I'll say is this next week over the WNBA will be pretty wild. I can assure you that. And our thoughts go out to all the WNBA front office and PR members who are going to have to deal with the storm that's coming. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. And look at that. So unless you've got any final notes, why don't we head over to our Sounders who are overseas?
I will say one last thing, and that's that KD, in my eyes, is tampering already being with a New York team, and now he's asking about Stewie to Sabrina Ionescu. Like, no,
Hey
that
man,
was
tell
it.
KD that he's supposed to have more ties to Seattle than New York. What's that all about?
Exactly.
So
That's true.
uh, whatever. I'll worry about that when it comes, and hopefully we have better updates for you in regards to Stewie next week.